Okay, so we're here today with Mr. McNeil at his offices in downtown Cortland, lovely downtown Cortland, and he's been gracious enough to be willing to sit down and talk a little bit about the extremely interesting life he's living. You're still living, you're still working, and I'm very, very happy to be with you here today. Could you start by telling us a little bit about your early life, if that's okay, if you'd start there?
Be very happy to. I was born and raised in Cortland and went to St. Mary's High School when it was a 12-year school, and went in the service. 1943, I was stationed in Europe. I was with General Patton, and got out of the service in 1946. And my brother John McNeil and I, he went to Syracuse University, I went to Des Moines, and there's a little humor about that.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing in a long line at Syracuse U to register, and I was, and there'd been a lot of lines for a lot of years in the Army, so I was getting a little uppity, and the gentleman next to me in the line said, "There's a new college open in Syracuse."
Uh-huh.
So I said, "Where is it?" He says, "It's down in the Columbus Circle there by the cathedral." So I went down and I signed up. My classmates don't think it's very funny, but it's been told for many years. And it worked out very well. The boys been a good
It is funny. It's that serendipity in life, isn't it?
Exactly.
So they were Columbus Circle at that time. They didn't have the campus up on the
That's
hill.
correct.
Wow.
Sure, and they had a little office there where they took registrations. And I'm not sure I could have passed an entrance exam. I'd been in high school 7 years, so frankly I didn't know what they were talking about. But I guttered it out and I graduated in 1951.
And what was your course of study?
It was kind of interesting at the time. They had industrial labor relations, and Lemoyne and Cornell were the only two schools that had it.
Mm-hmm.
And as with many college majors, I didn't practice it. My father was, our mother died when I was a freshman in college, and so we had to commute the whole 4 years, both of us. Mm-hmm. We were both musicians, we played with bands. In fact, it was a good thing because dollars are pretty hard to come by. Mm-hmm. And so when we finished college, we were looking out for our father, and who wasn't doing very well. So we went in the music business. And John was a concert pianist. He ended up his life with Yamaha International, and he's a very, very talented individual. So we...
and what was your instrument?
I was a percussionist, did everything from country and western to jazz to symphonies. And music was very, very good to both my brother and myself. We ended up owning 3 different stores, one in Binghamton and one in Cortland, and proceed up into the 80s. My brother died quite young, and I continued on and then branched into real estate. The building we're sitting in today I bought in 1968, and bought the one next door in 1958. Mm-hmm. And it was quite an occasion. It was a $100,000 purchase.
Wow. Wow.
That was quite a bit of money in those days.
Absolutely.
And
is that where you had your music store?
Yes, that's where the music store was. And we still own all the buildings. The majority of our holdings, I think, are in downtown. We're now located in Tioga County and Cayuga County, I think we have 55 buildings.
Wow. Wow.
They're all commercial, very slight residential, and we've been very fortunate. We're a bit of niche marketer. We're principally offices, commercial. We built the Racker Center out here.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
We built the family health offices here, the 3 of them, 4 of them. And that's been our life pretty much. Speaking about music, it's kind of interesting the way things have evolved. The church down here, which when I was a young lad, was the Baptist Church in Cortland. It's located on the corner of Church and Central Avenue. And about 10 years ago, the treasurer of the church came to me and he said, we're not making it. They had that time merged with the Congregational Church. The two churches got along very well, but financially it was becoming a burden.
It's a big building.
It's a big building. It seats, I think it seats about 500 people. And it was in very, very fine condition. They took very good care of it. And it was a sad day for the congregation. My son let me down that night. He didn't go to the meeting. So I winged it alone. And I told the pastor and the treasurer that we had some experience with buying buildings, and we made them an offer and they accepted it. It evolved somewhat into another part of our life in music, and we formed a foundation called the Dan and Rose McNeil Foundation, which is principally involved in music. The college had difficulty finding space for their symphony and their choral group. So we offered to put them in the building. And they still, even in the COVID, are functioning, practicing.
Well, that's wonderful.
We've had 3 or 4 nice concerts there.
Yes, I've been to a couple there. The acoustics are really nice.
Acoustics are unbelievable.
Yeah, they're very good.
It's just, acoustics are a very subjective thing. They sometimes spend a lot of money trying to create them, and that one over there is pretty much natural, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
It's wonderful that you saved it from the fate of some of the beautiful old churches and buildings that don't survive.
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've put quite a bit of money into it. The heating system didn't exist very much. In fact, the congregation actually met in the basement of the church, which is it's a nice high ceiling basement and stuff, and it probably seats 150 people. So we went in and refurbished that completely, redecorated quite beautifully, and so it's been a very exciting thing. There's been some nice performances there that otherwise wouldn't have taken place. David Neal, who's a music minister at the Episcopal Church on Court Street, is headed the program. And we've been able to have performances there that would be very difficult in other locations. So music still very much a part of my life.
It's really appreciated. It's really appreciated by the community. I want to go back to your. You mentioned you and your brother would play. Now, did you mean you played concerts or gigs during college to earn money?
Well, he was much more formally trained than I was. He studied with Sidney Sukenig, who was a big name piano professor at Syracuse University, and he was a fine classical musician, and he could perform major works was on a drop of music in front of him, that type. And he actually was an arranger. And so we had an orchestra called John McNeil Orchestra right after the war, performed for quite a long time.
Okay.
We played a lot of college dances. It was a big group. And
so the band was more than just you and your brother. It was
oh yeah,
other people.
it was good size. And we were very fortunate. We had people who actually were also music majors that performed. In fact, one humorous event I'll share with you, we were playing, I think it was a big college formal at the Hotel Syracuse. And it would happen to be the Jewish holy days. So we had no Jewish fellows to play the job. So John went out and recruited some folks from SU who were excellent sight readers, could read the book. But he said, please don't shake hands on the bandstand. He said, it's bad enough you never met each other, but let's not advertise. And
that's a wise fellow. That would be a tip-off, wouldn't it?
So we had some fun over that. But Mario DeSantis, who was a very well-known band leader in Syracuse, who also graduated with me from Des Moines in 1951.
Wow.
He just died last year.
Yeah, I saw that.
His daughters continue very with it. She was also a fine musician. And we're competitors in a sense. We were also very good friends. And we commiserated a little bit one day speaking about it. And he said, actually, Dan, he said that most of the fellows that play with me are music teachers in schools and stuff. He says, we don't make any money, but we have a lot of fun. And they were very good musicians, very good. And Maria's trying to keep it going, I guess, somewhat. So basically, that's my life. What's different about the town and things of that nature, you're very correct, it's very different. The retail community is pretty much over with. I think Cortland is not different in that. I think it's going on all over the country. And it's more complicated than Walmart and Amazon. It's just, I feel some of it is actually caused by people's economy of time. They don't have time to shop. It's pretty nice to get a one-day service on a product and send it back if you don't like it.
Going out leisurely, strolling Main Street on a Thursday night.
Precisely.
You don't do that anymore.
Days are gone. What will replace it? I remember many years ago, an architect, the city had hired for some role, I forget what it was, and he said, don't let your downtown blight. And it made sense. He said, because your whole community will follow.
Absolutely.
And he pointed out that residential living in downtown, of course, New York, tons of Boston. And I see some evolving at the present time. Some student housing is downtown, which that's fine by me. There are people. They're building some apartments downtown. So his concern I'm sure it was very valid, but may come to fruition with some people living downtown Cortland. There are some of the apartments are very nice.
Yes.
We own 2 or 3 that are beautiful. And actually, contrary to what my people believe in noise and all that, it's not bad living down here. There's restaurants down here, you go and get a sandwich or something.
That's what downtowns, that survive have to evolve, and there are people that love that vibrancy of a downtown with mixed housing and the library and the restaurants, and hopefully we'll have some entertainment venues, more entertainment venues downtown.
Yeah.
You know, that there's a, you know, I think that's kind of the wave of the future. Downtowns will be a center of residential and entertainment.
I think so. Something has evolved just this year that I can't put my finger on, but it can be exciting if I'm correct. There's real estate market is really on fire here.
Yeah.
Houses are selling for good prices.
Isn't that interesting?
And I think it's caused by people are moving into our community. As you know, if you're interested in history, Cortland's been stagnant for the last 100 years, pretty much. 19,000 people, that's it. So we could stand a little growth. It would be
We could, yes.
quite a medicine if it happened.
Some new blood too, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And so that's exciting. I feel a certain chemistry that I can't identify, that Cortland may be a really booming community in the next 20 years.
I hope so.
Yes.
I think, you know, some of the leadership had tried to bring in some new ideas, and some, you know, getting that downtown revitalization grant was a big deal. So
Very big help. Very big.
you know, I think sometimes we are our own worst enemies, though, that we, since we're so close to it, so many people emphasize the negative rather than the positive. You know, as a relocated person, I've noticed that there's so much negativity rather than looking at the positives and emphasizing
absolutely.
them. So that I think we need to overcome that.
I mentioned to some people that the state had hired to come up and really put that grant material together. And I mentioned to them that this isn't truly a college town. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I've traveled a lot with my swimming career. I've been in a lot of big schools, University of Michigan, so on and so forth. And it doesn't have the feel of a college town.
No.
And they said, what do you mean by it? I said, I can't truly define it. It just isn't there. And back to your reference of services of that nature, these college towns that boom, the rest of us are very doing great. So I kind of hope when the COVID thing and all that is out, that we will start to, with some influx of new people and so on, become more of a
I hope
college
so.
town.
You mentioned your swimming career. I have to ask you about your swimming. You're still swimming, is that?
Yeah.
So you've been swimming for a long time.
Longer than I can remember.
You swim competitively. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us what got you into that?
Well, it's a very interesting story, and how it evolved. Everyone thinks that I've been in it all my life, which is not true at all. The reason they think that is my 3 younger children were so-called big-time swimmers and national level swimmers. I started to swim when I was 45 years old.
Oh, wow.
I started swimming competitively when I was about 55 or 60.
So you started at the master's level.
Yeah. And hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I got angry with myself. I thought, if it kills me, I'm going to learn this.
Did you learn how to
in
do
those days, Sharon, you were a swimmer.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of technique 50 years ago.
Yeah,
Just,
absolutely.
train hard, thousands of yards, you'll get good. Stuff.
Yeah, the technique wasn't there.
No.
Did you learn how to do a flip turn and
No, I was all 9 yards. I swam the world meet in 1994 in Montreal.
Wow.
And came in 11th. And
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
yeah, for a non-athlete, because those people, they were Olympians in the meet with me.
Unbelievable.
And they had I think they had 45 countries represented and 3,500 swimmers. It was a big deal.
Boy, that's exciting.
And they had it in the Olympic pool.
Whoa. That's a thrill in itself.
Oh, yes, it was very exciting. And as I mentioned earlier, I met those Czechoslovakians and so on. And, well, you said to yourself, to the swimmer, there's a certain camaraderie of swimmers that doesn't seem to exist in other sports. It's very different.
Yeah.
I've been around Olympians, they stand and talk to me like I'm somebody. You know?
Well, you are somebody.
Swimmer.
I'm sure they admire you. Really. Do you have a particular event or stroke that you
I've done everything in the business.
Have you?
Yeah. To me, the most difficult thing in swimming is the 400 IM.
Yeah.
Because you're involved with four-stroke.
Right.
And 400 is a 400 meter IM meet it's a tough one.
It is.
Event. I've enjoyed it a lot, and I truly believe it's one of the things that's helped me live to my age. I'm not a runner, that sort of thing. And there's something about swimming because I was kidding my son the other day and my daughter who's been very sick, that swimming massages your whole body. Every muscle, every little muscle, every nerve works.
It's true, including your lungs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for 6 months I missed swimming, almost put me out of business this last year.
Are you back to swimming now?
I got back in my own pool, I guess about last week of May. And I couldn't even walk right till I was swimming. It was just, it was bad.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks after I got back in the water, I started to feel decent again. I really wish we could get some physiotherapists to do aquatics in Cortland. My son lives in Boca Raton, Florida, and the YMCA down there, they have 6 lanes. They have 3 lanes dedicated all day to therapy, and they have the PTs. They put on wetsuits to keep warm, and they work with older. Of course, it's a natural in Florida with all the older people.
But it's kind of a blind spot. You would think that we would have that here, because we have an aging population, but we don't.
No, it's the people that are skilled in aquatic and PTs and aquatics. It's a different thing. Dryland PT can't necessarily do it. These people down there are all swimmers themselves. They're graduate PTs, and I've seen people in Florida wheel in a wheelchair and put them in the water, and they walk them around. It's really remarkable.
It must feel remarkable too for them.
Just absolutely wonderful. The Donnie Ackelman's daughter is a PT that does aquatic work, and she works with handicapped kids, all 9 yards. She is down in Washington now, and she married a fellow that, in fact, giving him some secrets. The Ackelman's mother had said to her, "When are you getting married?" She says, "When I find the right guy." Standard. Well, she found the right guy. He's in the Pentagon, so she can do her PT work very easily. But I think that type of water exercise, even water walking and so on. As I mentioned, my daughter's been very sick, and she's getting better. And she was a competitive swimmer, and I think when she starts feeling good again is when she gets back in the water. It'll help her a lot.
want to go back to, you mentioned you were in the Army, you were in World War II, and you were with General Patton, is that right?
Yes, I was not in the tank corps. I was
Yeah.
in the advanced headquarters with Patton. I never met him. He actually, I started out with him in the States. I was in the Mojave Desert training for Africa. By the time I got over to Africa, it was over, fortunately. So I ended up again, and we went up through France. And I actually had a very interesting experience after the Battle of Bulge, and I was not in the front lines in Bulge, which is one of the most, actually, I think, more casualties per thousand. It was a turning point in the war, but it cost the Americans a lot. When it was over, and I never figured out how it happened, I lived with a family in Luxembourg for a few weeks. It was an R&R sort of thing, apparently, that they'd arranged. And it was a very interesting experience.
I bet.
Luxembourg people are very interesting. They are multilingual, and it's a very small country, 99 square miles. They drove the Germans crazy. A lot of resistance, gas, sand in the gas tanks, the whole 9 yards.
Well, that's pretty gutsy.
Yeah.
Because that being a small country,
absolutely.
you know, it's easy to find out who did it or make everybody something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that was a great experience. Then we crossed the Rhine River after that. Again, I lead a little charmed life. I crossed the Rhine early in the morning, and shortly after that, bridge went down. A bunch of Americans got killed.
Oh.
It's timing again. I was just very fortunate.
Yeah.
And they say you make your breaks, but you still gotta get somewhere. You're not gonna survive. So the war ended. I ended up pretty close to the Russians. So that was also an interesting experience. And I finished my war career in Europe. I was assigned to go to the Philippines when the war ended in Europe. And I got down to Marseille, France, and the war ended in Japan. And I got sent back to Bamberg, Germany. I spent the about 6 or 8 months of my Army career in Germany. And I had German POWs working for me.
Really?
Yeah, they were closing a big quartermaster depot. And there was quite a bit of black marketing going on and that sort of thing. And the Germans didn't want to go home. They were eating American food.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I had a German soldier, actually, it was Kurt. He was kind of sad. He lost his leg the last day of the war. And he spoke 5 languages.
My goodness.
He actually ran the office depot for me. And we got his wife a job, and they may still be over there. They were not anxious to go home. So
Did they share with you, or could you sense from them what their feeling was about losing the war?
We had a couple conversations when he tried to tell me how to run the depot. I said, "Remember, Kurt, we did win the war."
That's the best comeback ever.
Okay. Not too much. One thing, I think your husband ran into it too in Vietnam. I had no great love for the Germans for a long time after the war. I never abused them or mistreated them, which would have been wrong, and did treat them. They're very well-educated thing, generalizing group of people, but it took me a while. There was quite a bit of feeling there, but I really never had any bad altercations with them. They did their work, as you know by reputation. They're very meticulous and so on, and had no problem on the black marketing thing with them, which was fortunate because some Americans got in trouble.
Yeah.
Involved with the one kind of capsule to it you'll get a kick out of, I always have. I was ready to go home, and Colonel came down to see me, and he said, "McNeil, I'm going to make you an offer you can't afford to turn down."
Uh-oh.
I said, "Colonel, if you're talking about re-upping, no, I'm going home. I've had enough. I've been very lucky. I'm getting out of here." And he says, "Well, I'm going to offer you $7,600 a year, 1946. That was quite an offer.
Yeah.
He said, "You can stay as a warrant officer or you can stay as a civilian. I don't really care. I just want you to run this place." So he said, "You sleep on it, I'll be back." And I said, "Colonel, come back." So anyway, I said, "No, I appreciate the offer. It's kind of you and very generous." So then I went to Lemoyne, and 4 years later, I got offered a job, $5,600. The colonel knew what he was talking about.
What was that job for $5,600?
It was actually was a. This was prior to my brother and I deciding we were going to go, and it was basically a selling job, marketing. That was what they were paying a college graduate. A couple less than the colonel was offering.
But you didn't take that job.
No, I didn't take it. We kind of evolved into the music business. I mentioned earlier, my dad being sick, we were trying to look out for him. We had a lady helping us, and contrary to what people might believe, after World War II, I'm sure your husband went through the same thing, getting out of service. There wasn't a lot going on. I mean, the cars hadn't been manufactured much, and that part of the business hadn't gotten going. And we were having a tough time. Dollars were coming hard. We were doing dance work and going to school. Of course, the GI Bill paid for our tuition and so on. But there wasn't a lot of cash flying around. And it took us quite a while to get going.
It's amazing, as you speak, to go from there at a time when there was some struggle to when you were talking about your businesses that you have now. It's amazing in a span of one lifetime, what you've achieved in that period of time. Is there anything that you attribute that to? Is there anything that you think made you so successful?
Well, there's an old cliche, you make your luck.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that. I've been very lucky. It's kind of amazing, right place, right time.
But you have to take advantage or utilize the luck or whatever it is that's been given to you. Not everybody can or could do what you've done.
Commercial real estate is a big gamble. It's not as precise as people think it is. I was blessed. The greatest asset I had was my wife. She was brought up in the Depression as I was. She knew how to manage money, knew how to manage the family. She supported everything I did, and I'm very humble about that. I'm very humble about everything. I do think, in many respects, if you don't have a solid marriage and somebody that can make a dollar count, no matter how hard you work in the business, you're not going to catch up with a Spendthrift person. And she was a very important part of my life. I miss her terribly.
I'm sure you do.
She had a knack of always being involved with what you do and not being involved with what you do. It's pretty tricky.
Yeah, very. It's an art, isn't it?
Yeah. So I give her a lot of credit to answer your question. My brother and I always got along. We never had bad conflicts between us. When we broke the business up, he went he kept the stores, and I went into the real estate part of it. Very sad story. He got a wonderful job with Yama International when he got rid of the stores, and he worked till he was 70, and he had an automatic retirement. And they told him, it doesn't count for you. You come back Monday morning, you're going back to work. He died that weekend.
Oh my goodness.
It was sad because he was living in Florida. They didn't care where he lived.
Yeah.
He traveled quite a bit for them. And we really don't know what happened. He and his wife were out walking, and he went home and he said he tired. He went up. That was it.
Wow.
I think it possibly was an aneurysm.
Yeah. Oh, boy, that's very traumatic for everyone.
Yeah.
How sad.
So but he did end on a high note. In fact, it was kind of interesting. After he died, Yama paid my sister-in-law quite a sum of money. John never took any bonuses or anything. He just let it accrue. And it's a wonderful company.
Yeah.
They came in from California to the funeral and so on. So that part of his, he ended on a high note, so to speak.
I neglected to ask. You grew up in Cortland. What did your family do? What did your father do for work?
Very interesting. He actually was a engineer, and he came in here from Hartford, Connecticut. My father's side of the family are all Scottish Canadians. In fact, we went 2 years ago, fortunately, before all this started, with some of the family. Myself went over to Scotland. He came from the Isle of Barra, and there were 4 of them, his brother and himself, and his 2 sisters migrated from Nova Scotia down here. And their father died quite young, and there was nothing up there. It's still pretty barren up there. So, and he met my mother here in Cortland. He was doing an installation in one of the factories, and that's how they got together. My mother was a school teacher.
Okay.
She graduated from Cortland Normal School in 1906.
Wow.
Taught most of her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Your father was an engineer for a particular company?
No, he had, at one point he owned his own company.
Okay.
He went broke in the Depression. That was the thing that was happening. My father-in-law was in the produce business. He went broke too. My wife and I came from very hard stuff. We didn't want to do the same thing. Good motivation.
Absolutely.
But that was it. And neither one of them, men, my father or father-in-law, ever really got back on top of it.
Yeah. It was a terrible time, terrible blow. A lot of people didn't come back from that, and those that did always had that trauma. I guess nowadays you call it PTSD from the Depression.
Yeah, it's the thing that I think is quite different. In our time, we were very poor. were just getting by, and we wouldn't ask for help. And now people are taking a $300 a week thing and not working and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mean to beat on the present generation, but it raises some questions.
Yeah, yeah. The philosophy of life is a little different for some people. Not all. You know, it's hard to generalize, but that the ethics that you were brought up with, and mostly what I was brought up with, were a little bit different. And of course, you didn't have the distractions and things that kind of pull you in different directions now, but it's hard to develop a core that's strong enough to sustain it nowadays, I think.
Well, I don't, as you pointed out, I don't mean to generalize, but and there's some great American kids that are home run hitters. These Ukrainians come in, there's a bunch of them around here. They're hard workers. They've come from a tough country, of course, but there's one girl that works for McNeil Insurance, and she's had 3 promotions. She came from Ukraine probably 10 or 12 years ago. She went to TC3 on her own.
Wow.
And the mother, she really looks out for the mother and father. And a couple of years ago, it was kind of exciting. She became a citizen.
That's wonderful. And, that is exciting.
Took the wire over. Everybody went over to us again. So she, and as I say, she's had 3 promotions. She's up in the financial part of the company.
It's wonderful to see, and that the motivation that some of the immigrants have is blows us out of the water sometimes. They're really motivated to achieve and to give back.
Well, there's some very, as a matter of fact, you're talking about music, that you find some of the finest musicians the country exists today. They're probably better than we were by far. But there's some lethargy about it today with young folks. They can't get focused. They don't run with the ball. And I understand it a little bit, that they have so much and so little all at one time. I don't know.
Do you think some of it is that maybe it's a combination of things coming a little bit too easy, and that feeling that a fear of failure, that everyone can achieve, and therefore if you fail, and you know, to be successful you have to fail once in a while, I imagine.
Absolutely. I think your point's extremely well taken. There has to be some explanation, because I know one family that I'm very involved with, the parents are both bright people, they're good people. Not one of the kids has done anything. All of them have broken out of college, never finished. They're just drifting around.
It's sad. It's really sad.
It's sad for our country.
Yes, it is.
Because
it's a waste.
These kids could supply a great deal of quality. I don't, as I say, you touched on it, I think, quite precisely. I think the kids have had too much. Back to our history, we had nothing. And one Jewish fellow in the music business who had also gone broke in the Depression, he said, "You're the most vicious type of competitor there is," he said, "because you had nothing. If you lost everything, you'd still be back where you started."
That's a great point.
He says, "Yeah," he says, "you're tough to compete with."
Well, that's an interesting perspective. Really valid too. Well, I don't know if you have any final thoughts that you want to leave the Historical Society with. It's so fascinating to speak with you.
Well, you're welcome, certainly.
We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate what you folks are doing, because history is is the game.
It's important to learn from our past and to preserve it. There's so many remarkable people that, such as yourself, with such interesting lives, and it contributed so much.
Well, Cortland does have a lot of well-known people. I ran into one quite by accident the other day. His name is Dale Underwood, and he graduated from Hoover High School, and he is one of the top saxophonists in the world.
Really?
Yeah. He's down. He was in the Navy band for 20 years, I guess, and I've finally caught up with him, and his mother came in the music store years ago and wanted to get an instrument for him, and I said, Mr. Woods, I have something here in a Silver King alto sax, and I said, it can save you a lot of money because the kids all want the gold ones. So I sold it to her for $135, and I caught up with Dale. I haven't heard from him yet. He's down. He's professor down at the University of Miami.
Okay.
Lots of the fellow by the name of Raymond Crisera is one of the top. Actually, he played in the New York Philharmonic, lead trumpet, solo trumpet. He was born and raised in Cortland down there on Cedar Street, and he is at Texas teaching, and the service people, they stay in 20, sometimes 30 years, then they go into teaching. Yeah, Dale's down, he's performing down in Florida, he's performed all over the world, and I always felt good he'd come back to Cortland.
Yeah. There's quite a strong musical tradition here. I think it's
tremendous.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think some of it, the different ethnicities that were here, like there's the Italians, that they have their band, and your Scotch.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a melting pot, really. But it is a remarkable tradition, the music tradition here.
It's some very, very big names, very famous people. Those two fellows that I mentioned are pretty outstanding.
Mr. Gabriel.
And Arnold Gabriel,
of course, Spiegel Wilcox, jazz trombonist. Yeah. But even now, there's people that are very talented here. Paulette Fry, that plays the organ at the Episcopal Church. She's a really good musician. You mentioned David Neal. It's quite a good tradition. And you had a lot to do with it.
Well, small part really. We was kidding Steve Harrington yesterday. We had my brother and I just gotten going. We had a fire in the building, and Larry, we were competitors.
Yes,
And Steve's father, Reg, and Larry was his uncle, and they came over and helped me and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And my kids have been good helping people. I'm quite happy about it. They've had different cases where things went bad for people, and the kids went on and helped them.
You have how many children?
6.
6?
3 of them live in Cortland.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Dan, insurance.
That's a huge, the insurance company is huge.
Yeah, they employ 150, 160 people here in Cortland alone.
My goodness.
And they're in Denver, Colorado, and they're in Northern California. In fact, they have representations in Alaska. It's quite a remarkable thing. He's obviously a very bright guy, but he's always been at the right place at the right time.
Does he take after you?
I don't know. He's better at it than I am.
I don't know. Is he a swimmer too?
Yeah. No. He avoided. He missed the bell on that one.
Oh boy. Well, you can't have everything.
That's been great for Cortland.
Yes.
I wish we could get more companies like small companies They don't mess up the ecology. They just, you know.
You know, you know this, that it's a symbiotic thing that once the momentum is generated, like the buildings that you've restored down here, the attractiveness of it, people working here at Vibrancy, other things tend to happen. Other companies may be attracted because of that. And
That's
then
an interesting point.
It snowballs.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know,
Yeah.
if everything holds together.
It's pretty remarkable. Mary McNeil, Dan's sister, that's sick. She's going to get better, but she actually runs the company.
She does.
She's the operating officer.
Really?
Yeah, she's very bright. She's paid her dues. She graduated from York College when Dan was living down there. She lived on, and then she came in with the insurance company 25 years ago, and she got her MBA at Lemoyne, and they operate now because of their affiliation with Arch on a world level, and I'm quite proud of not only my own kids, but some outstanding people with the company.
You should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're highly respected throughout the industry.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's.
Well, look at who they came from. You know, someone with a lot of integrity. Yeah. Now Mary's a swimmer too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She and Ann and David are all swimmers. I think the difference in swimming, it's all up to you. It's you and the clock. It's that.
And the clock is very precise now. I used to have a stopwatch.
So it's different in that respect.
Yeah, it's much more technical too. The technique has just changed so much.
Yeah, goes back a ways. A fellow by the name of George Breen. He was in the Olympics. He broke the world record in Montreal, same pool I swam in.
Really?
Yeah. He was Cortland State, and that councilman is one of the famous coaches.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And he was my next door neighbor, and of course everybody thinks that I don't swim. Jim, I didn't swim in those days at all.
Well, you said you started at 45, so
yeah. We both lived up on McGregor Street, and Jim was a great guy. I don't know if we could ever kept him here, because when he left here, he went to Indiana, and they built a mausoleum for him out there. Councilman Center.
Heavyweight.
Yeah. He's, as you know, he wrote a lot of books. He was a kind of the forerunner of technique. He did some neat stuff. In fact, many of the books I read and stuff will mention Councilman even today.
Yeah, he was the trendsetter. Yeah, it's true.
I wish he had survived to see what it is now, because it's highly technical.
It's
highly
unbelievable.
Technical. Body position on the finest points.
And even the way they analyze the cameras and things that they use to observe the technique, it's science. It's a science now.
Very interesting point you're making. Several. I think the breakthrough on some of that was underwater photography.
Exactly. Yes.
Jim up on the hill here had put a window in one of the pools so we could watch the swimmers underneath.
Well, that's smart. Yeah, because that's where it's happening, isn't it? Right.
And then they developed the cameras and stuff. And I love to watch it. Body positions.
Yeah. When you watch the Olympics and they show the underwater image of what's going on, those swimmers now, they almost seem they're not the same human being that I am. They are
precisely
built so differently.
Yeah.
Oh,
those women you see, everyone were well over 6 feet tall.
I know. And the men, the size of the arms, the shoulders.
Yeah, they're. That's
it's a different breed.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's the same sport.
Yeah, same.
And you and I can both do it. Maybe
Yeah, absolutely.
not like that, but
No,
we can do it.
They pay quite a price though. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, with anything to achieve at that level,
Yeah.
you sacrifice, don't you?
David's not been back in the water. He finished his college career. That was the end of it. So. Well, they burn them out. It's
True.
a tough deal, you know.
It is.
Both Stan and Mary were swimming with the level group at the University of Southern California. I let them go when 16 years old. It was a big chance, but
Wow.
fortunately it was okay. They were doing 20,000 yards a day, 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, 10 at night. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
For the long-term aspect, it's probably not the healthiest thing, you know.
No, it's well. The thing has changed a bit. Now they're going big for drills and technique. They obviously have to do some distance swimming, but timely. But
Yeah.
it's changed.
Yeah.
The theory in the old days, the old coaches, where you burn a lot of yards and win a lot of wins.
Just keep doing it. Yeah.
And it's proven to not be true.
Yeah.
You need to be aerobically trained, of course,
Yes.
and strength training
Yeah.
and stuff. But the technique, you'd be amazed at how different body position in the water is. I was talking to a girl this morning, and another funny swim story. She swam next to me back in. In fact, she swam the world meet with me, 94. We were swimming down the Y, and so I said to her one day, you know, where are you from? She said, I'm from Syracuse. What was your maiden name? Elliot. I said, I graduated from college with your mother.
Oh my
I
goodness.
realize that to you. And she's still living too. She's 90. She's probably 92.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're 98.
Yeah.
Wow. God bless you.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
my brain isn't as sharp as yours is now. So you've done something right in your life. That's for sure.
Been pretty lucky.
Yeah. Well.
Pretty lucky.
Well, I do. It's an honor to spend the time with you, and I appreciate your willingness to sit down. It's been a delight.
Thank you very much.